Conférence de presse de l'équipe
Press
de
conference
Matteo Garrone,
for
le
the
conte
film
des
Tale
contes
of Tales
avec
by
l'ensemble
Matteo
de son
Garrone
casting.
with his actors and actresses. See you soon.
How are you? Good to see you. Hello. En attendant que les photographes aient fini de travailler,
While we wait for the
while
photographers to
waiting for
finish the work,
photographers to do what they do, please allow me to remind you to switch your phones, cell phones, iPads, beepers, everything that beeps. Soyez assez gentils d'éteindre vos téléphones, de couper vos téléphones, vos iPads et tout ce qui peut faire du bruit pendant la conférence de presse. Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à la conférence de presse film en compétition,
the film in competition, Tale of Tales.
Et je vais tout de suite commencer
And
par
I will start by introducing the people at the rostrum here.
Tout à fait à l'extrême gauche
At the far end of the table,
deux producteurs,
we have the producers,
Monsieur
Paolo Del Brocco
et Monsieur Jeremy
and
Thomas.
Jeremy Thomas.
Monsieur Jeremy Thomas vous est familier.
You know
Il
Jeremy
est
Thomas.
venu à Cannes
He came
à peu
to
près
Cannes,
aussi longtemps que moi.
or he has been coming to Cannes at least as long as I
À
have.
côté de lui,
Next to him,
non pas à côté de lui,
or rather not
il y a
next to
dans la
him,
salle
but
certains des
in
comédiens.
the room, we have some of
car il n'y
the
avait pas assez de place,
actors in the
assez de
film
place,
because
mais vous
there wasn't
les
enough room at the table.
Dans le
I'll
rôle de
introduce
Emma,
them.
Shirley Henderson.
Shirley
Dans le
Henderson
rôle
as
de
Emma,
Dora, Hayley Carmichael.
Haley
Dans le
Carmichael
rôle
as
de
Dora,
l'autre, Guillaume Delaunay.
Guillaume Delaunay, the
Dans
ogre,
le rôle de l'artiste de cirque Alba Rohrwacher.
Alba Rohrwacher, the acrobat,
Dans le rôle des jumeaux Elias et
the
Jonah.
twins, Elias and
Christian
Jonah,
Lys et
Christian
John Lys.
Lys and John
Guys,
Lys.
stand up, take a bow, you deserve it. As the young lady kidnapped, as it were, by the ogre, as Viola B.B. Cave. Royalty now, as the king and queen of Selva Secura, John C. Reilly, and Salma Hayek. As the king of Roccaforte, Vincent Cassel. As the flea-obsessed king of Altamonte, Toby Jones. You will have simultaneous translation here, whether it's French or Italian. So if you're not familiar with those languages, please use them. Vous avez de la traduction en français
You
et
have
en
translation
italien
in
dans la
French
salle.
and in Italian and in English.
Et là, j'en arrive à
And now,
l'homme qui est au milieu,
I
qui a
would like
réuni
to
tous
come
ces
to
gens-là.
the man in the middle who brought all these people together.
En 2002,
In 2002,
même s'il avait fait des films avant,
even if he'd done
son
other
film
films,
L'étrange Monsieur Pépinot
the film
a été
The
présenté à la 15e
Embalmer
des réalisateurs.
was presented at the
6 ans
Director's
après,
Fortnight 6 years later.
Ça a été l'année Gomorrah.
It was Gomorrah.
Compétition, Grand
In
Prix du
competition,
jury et
Grand
6
Prize jury,
European Film Awards.
and 6 European Film Awards.
4 ans après,
4 years later,
Reality,
we had Reality,
qui a aussi eu le Grand Prix du
which
jury.
also received the
Et
grand
voici
prize of the jury,
revenu avec un
and
projet
back
qui n'a
in Cannes
strictement rien à
with
voir,
a film that has
peut-être,
perhaps nothing to do
avec
at all
tout ce qui précède.
with the
le
preceding
réalisateur
ones.
Matteo
We have
Garrone.
the director Matteo Garrone.
Alors, je suis peut-être totalement ignorant,
Maybe
Monsieur
I'm
Garrone,
very ignorant,
mais,
Matteo
le film
Garrone,
est basé
but the
sur,
film
le
is
conte des
based
contes,
on
le conte dei conti,
the Tale of
qui a été
Tales,
écrit au début du
which
XVIIe
was written at
siècle,
the beginning of the
qui a
17th century.
dit, la brochure de presse influencé toute une
The
série
press kit
d'auteurs
said it
fantastiques et de
influenced a
contes,
lot
dont
of
Charles Perrault, dont les
people
frères
like
Grimm,
Charles Perrault, the Grimm
Hans
brothers,
Christian Andersen,
Hans Christian
Tolkien, et pourquoi
Andersen
pas
even,
J.K. Rowling
and
pour
why
Harry
not
Potter.
J.K. Rowling for
Comment
Harry
se fait-il
Potter?
que personne ne le connaisse, ne connaisse ce livre?
Why does nobody know this
en
book,
Europe.
at least in Europe?
Questa è una domanda a cui non so rispondere, però è
Well,
vero
that is
che
a question that I'm
è un
not able
autore
to
che
answer, in fact.
giustamente
He is an
rimane
author,
sconosciuto, ma anche in Italia.
a writer
È stato il
who's
primo a scrivere
unknown,
di
and it's
Cenerentola,
unfair.
del gatto
He's
con
not
gli
well
stivali,
known in
della
Italy
bella
either.
avventura nel bosco.
In fact, he was the first person who wrote
Ed è
tales
un testo
like
meraviglioso,
Puss in
anche
Boots,
una miniera di
Cinderella,
personaggi, di
and
immagini, di
he
storie
has a whole wealth of
straordinarie e
characters,
anche estremamente
images,
moderne.
and wonderful
Come sono
stories
d'altro canto
that are
le
extremely
fiabe,
modern.
quasi su degli archetipi, sono sempre comunque attuali.
He wrote fables,
Quindi mi
archetypes,
sembrava
which
che
remain
fosse
very topical.
Giusto
I thought,
cercare
therefore,
di
that it was
portarlo in scena,
right and
anche
fair
se mi rendevo conto che era un progetto
to
molto
make a film
ambizioso e abbastanza
based on these
incosciente.
tales. It
Però,
was
ecco,
an ambitious project, granted.
sono
One had to
avventurato.
be a bit
e
bold and daring to do so, but I launched into this
attori,
adventure
di
with a whole group
collaboratori
of
straordinari,
actors and actresses
ed è uscito fuori questo
who are
film,
quite
insomma,
extraordinary,
questo
and you saw the
racconto.
result.
Le livre avait été
The
écrit
Tale
en
of Tales.
napolitain, c'est peut-être pour ça que ça n'a pas été facile
Maybe it
pour
was
traduire
written
dans
in
d'autres langues,
Napolitan, so it wasn't easy
Sì,
to translate
libro è
into
stato
other
scritto in un
languages.
dialetto napoletano che oggi non viene letto
Well,
neppure
no,
dai
the
napoletani,
original
un
book
dialetto del
was
600, quindi
written
comunque si
in
trattava
a
di
Napolitan
nella
dialect
scelta del
that
linguaggio,
dates from the
comunque anche se
17th
l'avessimo fatto in
century.
italiano l'avremmo fatto
Even
da una
people who live
traduzione.
in Naples
siccome
today
c'è una
don't understand this dialect,
shakespeariana
but I had to work
in
on the
Basile,
basis of a
Calvino
translation.
diceva che i racconti
It's
di
a bit
Basile
Shakespearean, all this,
erano
in
il sogno
fact.
di un deforme Shakespeare partenopeo, quindi c'era qualcosa di
Basile's
shakespeariano e quindi mi sembrava che in
Tales,
inglese
someone said,
potesse
were like
intanto dare a questo testo
something
finalmente
written
una
by
sua
Shakespeare.
universalità e
So I
farlo
thought that
arrivare ad un
making a
pubblico
film
molto
in
più ampio.
English would give
E poi
these
si
tales
sposasse bene,
a more
quindi
universal dimension.
la scelta è
And
nata
everything fitted in very well like that.
inglese. E
The
poi
choice of
abbiamo
English
scelto
seemed
comunque di rimanere
self-evident.
legati alle nostre radici, quindi
And then
comunque
we
di esaltarlo in Italia,
decided
con una troupe
to remain well
per gran parte
rooted
italiana.
in Italy
Quindi siamo,
with
penso di non aver tradito l'anima di
a
Basile.
team that came largely from
Question
Italy.
to the
And I don't
actors.
think I
Once you
betrayed
were cast,
Basile's
beyond
soul.
the joy of being cast, you got the script and did you go, what am I going to do with this character to make it mine? Yes?
Well, I suppose I was lucky in the fact that I could relate to my character, Princess Viola, perhaps not in the fact that I'm royalty or lived in the 17th century, but that she's yearning for freedom, that lots of teenagers, people that want to grow up, they all feel the same sort of angst. And so even though her journey takes extraordinary measures, she gets kidnapped by an ogre and has to physically transform, I could understand the transformation of her mind, because she went from being a naive individual to someone who actually gains a lot of strength. And, well, I'm not sure if I've had the same transformation, but it's something that I can aspire to. So I was able to relate to her in that way, and I'm sure other young people watching it will be able to as well.
Salma?
I don't know if I ever ask myself the question, how can I make it mine?
Okay.
It
was yours already?
No, it's everybody. It's for everyone. It's more. How can I understand her deeper, so that she can be understood by others? But I didn't find it hard because I think her conflict it's a conflict that many women can understand. This obsession for the children, and. First to have a child, and then if you're Mexican or Lebanese or Italian, this obsession for the child, you know, the overwhelming love for the child. It's something that many women can understand very well also, but I knew from the beginning that I had to, and it was very easy, and I really felt for her, but I really felt as her, but it was really just a bunch of sensations to be put in the hands of somebody who was gonna thread it all together.
Mr. Jones.
What was the question again? Whether I found it hard to relate to.
Well, your definition as a character as obsessed by fleas is kind of intriguing.
I think I didn't find it complicated to understand. I thought that the situation was hyper-real, fantastical, if you like. But I think that the complexity of feelings that one has as a father towards a daughter, when a daughter grows up and that departure is seen as a threat, that departure is seen as a sign also of your own aging, and aging is often to do with infantilizing. And I think that all of those complicated feelings are embodied in this fantastical image of someone trying to hold time to himself by befriending and petting something as absurd as a flea.
Thank you. Vincent? John?
Moi, c'est le côté moderne de tout ça.
Well, it's the modern dimension of all this. Even if these tales come from the past, the topics addressed are very modern indeed. For example, women who want to have a child and will go to any lengths to do so. The men who are constantly attracted to youth and beauty, and these women who are chasing after youth, which doesn't exist anymore, and which are prepared to do any kind of sacrifice to look young again. The solitude of these people who get attached to an animal, or maybe today it would be a computer. The tales are archetypes which reflect the things of their times, but many of these tales are very opposite still today because the topics addressed still worked.
John?
I knew I should have spoken before Vincent, because now anything I say will not sound nearly as eloquent. Sorry. Yeah, I think everyone here has already spoken to the universality of the fairy tale. It's something that I've always been very interested in, Grimm's fairy tales and some of the stories that Matteo mentioned. And I think that there is something, the reason that they are fairy tales is because at their essence, there's something very relatable to the human experience, and that's the reason these stories last so long, is that there's something very, at the core of it that people can relate to very easily. And in my case, I'm a very romantic person, and I like to think that I would kill a sea dragon for my love. If that's what she wanted, I like to think I would do that. But honestly, one of these kind of questions where it's like, well, how did you decide to do the project? How did you make it yours? Like, I heard that Matteo was doing a movie about fairy tales in Italy. My only question was, how quickly can I get there? And then, of course, we're in the amazing hands of people, like Massimo with the costumes, and just walk into this place and you're transformed into these characters by Matteo and his team. So I feel very lucky to be here. And I predicted it would be here, by the way.
Question here, then here.
Hello, this is Iqbal. This is Iqbal from Bangladesh. And my question is to Salma Hayek. Do you know that you are very popular in Bangladesh? And for the films like Desperado and The Dawn to Dusk, you're so much popular in Bangladesh. Did you know that?
I didn't know. Thank you for telling me. I hope they like this movie even more than the other ones.
Okay, thank you. And my question, according to the film, is how was the taste of the sea monster's heart? How was the taste? You are eating
disgusting. No, we have to talk about this. Our director here wanted the heart to be inside of the heart, identical to the real heart. It's not just from the outside that was perfect. He needed inside all the exact parts. God forbid I took a bite and a doctor would recognize that there's an artery missing.
Who knows what a sea monster's heart looks like?
He does. And there was pasta, candy, all kinds of disgusting things I thought I was going to throw. Thankfully, my daughter Valentina was there, and she saw the monitor, and she came after the third time that I was gagging. And you have to be happy eating the thing, oh my God. And she said to me, if you bite from the front, you can go to the back and spit it out. You cannot see it in the camera. I'm looking at the monitor. And she saved my life.
Whoa. Thank you, Monsieur.
Hi, Rodrigo Fonseca from TV Globo Brasil. Question to Matteo Garrone. Visually, the film is incredible. I would like you to tell a few words about your work with Dimitri Capuani, your production design, especially in the creation of the monsters. They are really impressive. I would like to tell a few words about that.
Dimitri Capuani è lo scenografo del film e con lui abbiamo fatto un grande lavoro di ricostruzioni.
Did a huge amount of work in terms of creation, reconstruction of the atmosphere and the environment. He tried to create hyper-realistic environments. He tried to find grottos near the Alcantara. Even if these are real caves and grottos, we wanted to give the impression they had been reconstructed as though they were in a studio. Because the film is subtly on the borderline between what is realistic and totally artificial. We try to go back to the origins of the cinema and create images which will surprise spectators, but which at the same time give him the impression that these are real images, yet they were actually reconstructed. The special effects are the
e anche in quell'occasione, anche con Leonardo abbiamo cercato di fare un lavoro che fosse anche molto materico. Gli effetti speciali dovevano essere reali, esserci sul set e poi avere delle integrazioni digitali.
Show the special effects as though they were real, and we included some digital effects as well. This was all done by hand, in fact. That's the watchword throughout the film. We did things really custom-made by hand. At all costs, we had to show images that were believable, authentic, and real. And we did the same thing with the actors.
Please stand up so we can see you.
Okay. Here I am. I have a question for Salma, Faye Winter for Latin America. Since you moved from Mexico to Hollywood, then to France, now to Italy, what place do you call home? And if you feel that you have to represent, do you feel the pressure to represent the Latinas in the world?
Well, you know, when I get a part, I think I have to represent the woman that is on the script. And I am very proud of my roots. And I think they make me who I am. But at the core, you know, I'm a woman, and I'm a human being, and home is where my family is. Always with love for all the places that have formed me, and for all the DNA that's inside of me. And I'm grateful for being from where I am, but I am also grateful to have the opportunity to experience and melt into other cultures, and to have the possibility to represent so many different women through my work. I'd be happy to do a man too, if somebody gets an idea for a script.
Hello, I'm Ernesto Garrat from El Mercurio, Chile. A question for Mr. Matteo Garrone. I just want to know what kind of challenge did you face during the shooting? I mean, it's a big budget movie, and I don't know if it was a problem shooting special effects in a way, and also trying to a new language, you know, English, moving from Italian to English. Thank you.
L'idea di fare un film che comunque partisse da un genere così
This is a
poco
film
frequentato in Italia, almeno negli ultimi anni, è stata una
which
scelta
talks about
abbastanza
tales that haven't
incosciente.
been covered much in the past, in Italy in
Però,
particular. And my choice
io prima di essere
wasn't
regista ero un
premeditated.
pittore e il fantasy,
But
che comunque
before
il genere
being a director, I
fantastico
was
è un
a
genere che si
painter.
misura con la forza
And,
visiva delle immagini. Quindi in qualche modo era un territorio che sentivo
love
familiare e che mi
fantasy
sembrava anche di aver
and
percorso con i
the
miei film
power of
precedenti.
images. I
Nei miei
felt
film
very much
precedenti
at
partivo
ease
dalla
in this
realtà per trasfigurarla in una
environment.
dimensione fantastica. In
I
questo
like
film ho
to
fatto il
start with
percorso inverso.
reality and then lend it a fantastical dimension.
Anche il fatto di girare in Italia, il fatto che
The
loro
fact
siano
that
venuti nel
I
mio
shot
paese,
in
quindi
Italy,
mi ha
the fact
aiutato
that
a
everyone
sentire
came to
comunque un
my
legame forte
country
sempre con le mie
helped me
radici,
no
con la mia
end
cultura.
to
Quindi tutto sommato
feel that I had a
non ho
very close
sentito
link with my roots and my culture.
traumi, ecco, nel passaggio
So I didn't feel this was traumatic in any way when I moved from Italian to English.
Se non altro ringraziare
I'd like to
tutti gli attori
take
che
this
hanno
opportunity
lavorato
today to thank
con
all the
grande
actors
generosità che
who
sono qui
worked
e dire anche che il
in the
lavoro
film, who
nel
worked
mio modo di
in a very
lavorare,
generous way.
l'attore mette sempre qualcosa di sé dentro al personaggio, è sempre una sorta
Actors
di
and actresses
matrimonio
always
tra
add
personaggio e
something
persona.
of themselves to
Io
their
sono stato molto
character.
fortunato
There's a
perché
sort of a
tutti loro
marriage between
hanno in qualche
the
modo
character and the
portato qualcosa
person.
del
And
loro
all the
vissuto,
actors and
della loro
actresses here
sensibilità,
brought
della loro
something
creatività
of their
e hanno
own
arricchito e dato
experience,
colore
their
al personaggio.
sensitivity and their
Questo è un
creativity,
film al
and they
femminile.
lent this to
Quindi
their
è stato
characters.
scritto da quattro
It's
uomini
a film
che sono qui,
which
Ugo
was
Chidi,
written by
Massimo Gaudioso,
4
Edoardo
men who
Albinati.
are
E
here
sicuramente
before
l'elemento
you.
femminile l'hanno portato
But
le
despite
attrici
everything,
in qualche modo
it's the
rivisitando
female, the
dando delle
feminine
piccole
aspect that's
sfumature, a volte non
highlighted by
tanto
the
piccole,
actresses.
e dando
The
quella
actresses
verità
added
ai
little
personaggi
nuances,
femminili, che è stato
sometimes
veramente importante,
major
centrale. Poi
nuances
volevo
to the
ringraziare anche Massimo
characters they
Cantini Parini che ha
portray.
fatto i costumi, che
I would
noi
also
abbiamo
like
parlato di
to thank
scenografia, abbiamo
Massimo,
parlato di effetti
who
speciali,
dealt
però
with the
il ruolo
costumes.
dei
You
costumi
have
è
the special
centrale in questo
effects,
film.
but costumes
E
also
manca
play a
Peter Suschiski,
paramount role
che ha fatto la
in this
fotografia,
film.
che è fondamentale
And I would
in
also
questo
like
film.
to
E Alexander
thank
Splat,
the
le
director
musiche.
of
Quindi,
photography,
insomma,
who played
per me è
a
un'occasione
paramount
per
role, and the
ringraziare
music is
questa
important
squadra,
too. So I'd like
sappiamo
to
tutti che
thank
fare
the
un film
whole of the cast
lavoro
and the crew
collettivo.
who worked on
Poi io,
this film.
diciamo,
Making a
coordino
film
in qualche modo,
is a
però,
collective piece of work. I just
frutto di un
orchestrated
lavoro
things.
lungo
And this film is the fruit
complesso,
of
che in questo caso è durato 3 anni.
long-standing, complex
If I
work,
may
which lasted
expand
for
that
3
on
years, in fact.
the producer's direction, it must have been hell to put the project together, hasn't it?
No, it's, films are in alchemy, you need an alchemy. And everybody wanted to make Matteo's film, and we had a wonderful cast. And I tried very hard because I love being in Italy. So I love Italy, and it's a well-known fact that I love Italy. And thank you, Matteo, for my holiday.
Thanks Jeremy for having me.
No, per noi è l'ennesimo film con Matteo che amiamo, che amo.
This is a new film we're doing with Matteo Garrone, and I'd like to remind you of something. Sometimes it was difficult to make certain choices, but there's something which I liked a great deal. When Matteo talked to me about the film for the very first time, he did this during half-time, during a soccer match. And after 3 minutes, I said, yes, let's forge ahead, that's great.
Et puis là.
Bonjour, je suis Yasna Moussa pour la W Radio. J'ai une question pour M. Cassel et Mme Hayek. Je voudrais savoir comment a été l'expérience de travailler avec le réalisateur
Matteo Garrone.
Merci de me poser cette question.
Well, thank you for asking the question.
En fait, facile.
In fact, it was easy.
Facile, c'est toujours compliqué de faire des compliments quand la personne est juste à côté, mais facile comme la plupart des gens qui travaillent avec les autres.
But it was very easy.
Effectivement, sur le plateau de Matteo, on arrive, très vite, les conversations sont assez informelles,
Conversations are very informal, we talk about this and that, we eat together. And
même si ça
you
ne l'est
have
pas.
the impression that everything's easy,
Enfin, en tout cas
even
pour
if
lui,
it
surtout.
isn't, at least for him in any event.
Quelque chose de très détendu sur le plateau.
And the set is always really
Une
relaxed.
espèce de mélange d'anglais, de
There's a
français,
mixture of English,
d'italien.
French, Italian.
Et tout ça se passe, je dirais, et quand je dis ça, c'est un compliment, à
This is a
l'italienne.
compliment. Everything is
C'est-à-dire
done
qu'il y a
Italian style.
il y a une certaine désinvolture parfois dans la manière de
Things
faire
are very
qu'ont les
relaxed in the
Italiens.
way
Et
one goes about
qui
things
donne
in
peut-être
Italy, and
ce charme
perhaps
au cinéma
that
italien, en tout
creates
cas celui
great
qui est bon
charm.
et celui qu'on a aimé.
That
Et donc voilà,
is something
je
very
dirais vraiment le mot,
endearing
c'est
in the
facile.
Italian cinema. So it was quite frankly very easy.
For me, it was a little different. I actually found it challenging, but fascinating. Definitely worth it and exciting. But I found it challenging because it's, yes, all the characters are contemporary and characters that we can all relate to. But it always goes, every story, to a place that you could never have imagined. And this is, I think, what makes the film special. Even though it's a fairy tale and a fable, it doesn't go where the fairy tales and fables usually go. It goes to very unique places, and it goes in a very unique way. And so the challenge was, you understand the character, you understand everything, and then you enter this world that is already bizarre, but now you have to enter his head. And as an actress, I'd like to guess what they're gonna think, and please, I'm gonna, but you could never guess what he was gonna think. And it was a wonderful experience because you had to be completely vulnerable and available in every way, emotionally and physically, because a lot of the scenes were very physically challenging. It doesn't look like it. But Massimo here, please get up, Massimo. Say hello to the crowd. He never made me a dress that weighted less than 30 kilos. So when Matteo wanted to go around and around the labyrinth, and he would get on top and say, okay, now come to this room. It's right here. But I had to walk for 45 minutes on the big dress to get to where he wanted me.
Then when you try to jump.
Oh, and then at some point I was so exhausted, and he said, look at the light. No, we have to do the close-up again because now it's after 8 or 9 hours. And we're all sweating. And come here, just to this side. I said, Matteo, it's 45 minutes. I won't make it. The light will change. But jump. And so I actually tried to jump, but the dress was so heavy that I got stuck. They couldn't bring the crane to pull me off. He was standing right next to me where I am laying flat because the dress has like wire. I don't know what it has, but you cannot bend. And he's saying, somebody pick her up, somebody pick her up. And like 3 guys, it was so humiliating. And Massimo is screaming. I'm like dying there, and he's screaming, the dress! And Matteo is screaming, the light, hurry up! And finally, they got me to the other side, so it was challenging every day, but exciting and fascinating.
Question here, then there.
Hello, it's Ninos Mikelidis from Greece, Athens News Agency over here. Hello, Matteo. Congratulations. I like the music very much. It created the fantasy atmosphere that you were looking for. Could you say something about your cooperation with Alexandre Pla, please?
Con Alexandre abbiamo già lavorato in precedenza e di solito ci vediamo a Parigi e iniziamo a parlare delle scelte, delle scene che consideriamo più importanti da un punto di vista musicale, e lui inizia a buttare giù delle idee, poi ne discutiamo insieme e piano piano, dopo un lavoro lungo, arriviamo a delle soluzioni che condividiamo in qualche modo insieme. Mi dispiace che non possa essere qui. Lui era dispiaciutissimo.
I'm sorry he couldn't
Purtroppo
come
oggi
today. He was also very sorry not to attend as well. But yesterday he received a prize in Los Angeles, and so he couldn't fail to be in LA to pick up his prize. It wasn't very easy to find the right music for the film,
vuole essere anche un film comunque che rivisita l'epoca in una chiave moderna, e quindi anche da un punto di vista musicale la musica deve essere
film set in the past, but it has a very modern dimension. So the music had to be ageless in a way. The work was fairly lengthy, finding the right music. But in the end, we're very pleased indeed with the result.
Yes, hi. This question is for Mr. Matteo. First of all, I love the film. Travolta Cooper Tempo Networks in the USA and the Caribbean. I love the movie. I thought it was brilliant and strange. My question is, what I love most about the film was how, even though these were tales and archetypes, in a way you sort of break free from the traditional fairy tale and archetypes, particularly with the princess who, in a way, ends up saving herself in the end. Was that reflected in the original narrative, or was that you taking a creative license?
Sin dall'inizio, nel nostro approccio con il testo, abbiamo capito con gli sceneggiatori che sarebbe stato giusto prendere delle libertà.
In terms of the text, we realized with the scriptwriters that we need to take some poetic license.
Da un'anima che poi è rimasta fedele ai racconti, ma molte cose poi sono
cambiate. Are based on the original text. We remain faithful to it, but we did change certain things.
Which one was the ending that you asked me if was different?
Bebe. Did she
yes.
save herself?
Yes.
In the original?
In the original story, I can say the ending is changed. I don't want to say the ending now, because maybe there is people that watch and have to see the movie, and so no. But yes, we changed a lot, but not the soul, of the story in a way. What else? I forgot. The question was just this, or
yes, so the question was about the ending.
Did she save herself?
Huh? No, we took a lot of freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir?
Hello. Jack Mulvin from The Times. Hello. Good-looking people do very well in fairy tales and in films as well. Do you think this is unfair, and perhaps sometimes someone who's not so good-looking ought to come out on top? I'm thinking particularly of the ogre, who I think might have, survived to the end of the movie.
You called us ugly?
No.
Did you just say we're ugly? Oh.
On the contrary. Do you want to answer, Monsieur Log? Un instant. Okay. Oui, non, c'était j'imagine la place de la beauté d'une part et la place donc de la laideur.
Beauty is important, but ugliness too in these fairy tales.
C'est retranscrit au cinéma, et en particulier, je suis désolé que ça tombe sur vous.
And I'm sorry it was you, but you have the example of the ogre. The ogre had to be ugly.
Did you think you could push the ogre to be?
Maybe the screenwriter can, I don't know how to answer, but
as a character that dies in the film, I have to say that bad things happen to good-looking people also.
Thanks.
No, your question is ridiculous, I'm sorry to say, but it's, I think everyone's stuttering for an answer because there's nothing to be said.
Okay, so we'll say
good and bad happens to all types of people, and also what you find ugly is often up to the beholder.
Yeah, we have the expression in the beholder.
Exactly, yeah.
Ugly for one person is beautiful for another.
I think he meant, you know, like in fairy tales, it's always all so nice. But I think this breaks away from the typical fairy tales that we are used to seeing, where everything is beautiful and only the witch is very, very ugly, but only at the end, because at the beginning, usually they're very beautiful because they're doing some kind of witchcraft. I think this is a different kind of fairy tale. It's dark, and I think it has its own world, and I think there's all kinds of people and creatures, and it's not meant to be like, you know, the fairy tales were ugly and beautiful. It's a focus point. You know, you have the Beauty and the Beast, or the witch that it's looking in the mirror and it's always the most beautiful. I do think that it's true that beauty usually has a part in fairy tales, but this is different than that, and I think that's what makes it special and dark.
We'll take one more question, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, Karolina Pasternak from Polish edition of Newsweek. I have two questions, actually. First for Mr. Garrone and the next for the cast. Thank you for the movie, first of all. I loved it. And it's so much different from your previous movies, which I also loved. But then the question is, what are you looking for when you are looking for a new project, since they are so different? And the cast, could you please tell us, we know the movies of Mr. Garrone, but we don't know him as a person. So if you could take a few minutes of time and tell us something about him as a person, and please avoid saying that he's amazing and wonderful. Just something about his personality.
But he is amazing and wonderful.
Okay, but then something more about his personality, which we would like to know better. Thank you so much.
Bene, io diciamo che in Basile ho ritrovato tanti degli elementi che poi hanno sempre caratterizzato il mio lavoro,
was a lot of material that always interested me and characterized my work. It's like it was an obsession.
Legato al corpo, alle metamorfosi.
It goes without saying
credo che una chiave
that you find everything to do with the body and metamorphosis. I think there's a key idea in the film, which is desire. Desire which goes beyond limits and turns into an obsession and generates conflicts as a result. I think that this is a key element. Our approach to the film. Well, for each of the characters, we wanted to be very close to the character. When I made this film, I always felt very close to the characters, and I love them all. I've tried to understand them and tell their story from an emotional and physical stance, rather than from an overly intellectual stance. I made a lot of gut choices, if you like. Basile is an author where there's such a wealth of ideas that I think he's fairly close to what I have done in my professional life. My films may appear very different, but everything in my film is based on characters who I can love and the visual impact. I can't make a film if I don't love the characters I'm portraying. And
These things are amazing. I have to be able to take this with me when I leave here. Because I've just learned more about Matteo than the entire time on the film just by listening to this device. Incredible. I want to have this in the restaurant when I go to hear the specials at the restaurant. It's very good. Well, my reflections on Matteo were he was amazing. What were the other things I'm not supposed to say? No, the most startling thing to me was for a movie that was so formal, with so much detail and so much stuff to be done in terms of the look and the photography and the costumes and everything, he was amazingly courageous and instinctual. You know, we'd be doing these huge setups, and if it didn't feel right, we would just keep changing things, they're trying something new. And that takes someone who's very confident and someone who very much trusts their instincts. And beyond that, as a person, he's an incredibly warm person, as are all the people around him, and the feeling on the set was very much, I think that's why I enjoyed working in Italy so much, is unlike American films, there's not this regimented, departmental separation between people. Everyone is just, we're hungry, let's all eat. You know, let's eat whatever it is, everyone's pitching in, and Matteo, of course, led by example with that, with his gracious personality. I'm sorry to say that he was amazing.
For me, what I think I was most surprised by was how generous Matteo was with his creative output. So when I got to set in the morning, I really had no idea what we'd be filming, and, well, at first, with maybe my lack of experience compared to other people, it was frightening because, well, he seemed to have so much trust in me and in Toby and in everyone to play around with the lines. And so when I realized that I had to improvise, well, when you're doing such a big film like this, you feel like it would be perhaps more comforting to have the lines exactly scripted out for you, knowing exactly what you're doing. But I think probably within 2 or 3 days of this new way of working, I realized that he was giving us the chance to actually familiarize ourselves with the characters and shape them to us, so they were more than just archetypes of fairy tales. Like I started to really feel like I was making a contribution to the film. And he didn't need to do that, you know? I could have just been wearing a dress and saying what he told me to say, but I actually felt like I was doing something creative, you know?
Well, when I'd seen his films before, a couple of his films before, and I was very struck by how the originality of the structure of the films and how densely populated the films are, how many people are colliding, how they are teeming with people. Very Neapolitan aesthetic, in a way, of people colliding. And when I was working on the film, the World Cup was going on, and every night we would go and meet and eat and watch the football. And I think that that sensibility is very much in the film. The idea of people colliding and everything. There's a delight in hazard. There's delight in chance. Even though I think in this situation he had to formally set up scenes, quite complex setups. As John was saying, there was always room to improvise within that. But, you know, it's an extraordinary gift as a director to be able to marshal this stuff and at the same time have the freedom to improvise in the moment. I mean, it's not an obvious skill, and I was really struck by the casual, apparently casual way, not unpassionate, but casual way he was able to do that.
I've learned a detail about Matteo's life that you told me, by the way. Before being a painter and a director, he was a tennisman. That's a pretty strange path, I thought. So tennisman, painter, director. And the other thing that struck me kind of a bit is that it feels like you're always falling out of bed. Even on the set, it feels like you always just woke up. I find it very refreshing to have a director that just shows up and feels like he's waking up. I don't know why.
For me, the one thing that struck me the most about Matteo, there were many, but it's a short time, was that sometimes we would do a scene, and yeah, you could improvise all you want, but he would say, nah, And there were scenes where they were very good. They were very good, even not me, maybe I would watch the kid. My kids, I call them the kids, you know, John. And I go, why don't you like it? And I couldn't understand what was wrong. And he'd say, no, I like it. But I think I've seen something similar to that before. It's not mine. And that was, to me, is what defines Matteo the most. It's not that it has to be good. is that it has to be his. Unique, but it can only be unique if it's only yours. And I think we talk a lot about method actors, but they are method directors. They arrive, they go into their world, and they live there. And maybe there's a fire, and they don't see it because they're just focused on there's a fire. Okay, is it extinguished? Okay, can we please repeat this take? And he really, like, I feel he goes there and he lives there until we go home. And if something doesn't belong to that world, even if it's good, it won't go. You stay there until he gets it. Thank you.
On that wonderful note, thank you very much for coming here today.
Thanks.